Good evening, everyone, and this is your host Tahir Raw, and welcome to my show, Hyde Park. Uh, Dougford government, PC, conservative government in Canada, in provincial assembly in Ontario, they completed their 4 years of government, and we are going for next election in June 2nd. And of course, every government wants and they claim that they are very successful and they wanted to get re-elected, but the opposition, they think and they propagate and they try to convince the people that like they were not they have not served the people well and they deserve better than this one. And of course, that is the always called, it is opposition is a government in waiting. So right now in Ontario, New Democratic Party is official opposition to the government, and because they have the second largest seats in the assembly, like 41 or 40 seats there, and of course the third party was Liberal, which was governing the province since long before the Doug Ford came, but due to their policies they lost badly in elections. So of course, and they are trying to regain their ground there also. Today, I started this my series of interviews with the opposition MPPs, which means NDP MPPs and the Treasury MPPs, PC from the PC. I started this series of interviews that people can get a better sense that who are making good things, and of course, what is their role and opposition role was there, and what the government achievements were there in last 4 years, so people can make a good decision and informed decision. That's my purpose. So this is my second program for this series, and I invited Faisal Hassan. He is member parliament, member provincial assembly, MPP, NDP from York East, Weston.
Southwest.
York Southwestern.
Yeah.
So we will talk about his performance specifically, what he has done for his riding specifically, and overall general what NDP did in 4 years and how they countered the the of course when you have in a majority, so they try to bulldoze and they wanted to pursue their own agenda, how they blocked their agenda, which was against the people's welfare or something else. So welcome, Mr. Faisal Hassan, into my show.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, so first we will talk about Doug Ford's performance. Where do you think he lacked the performance and he couldn't make good progress, especially like education was always in limelight because of the COVID and the policies, funding, and the health. These are the two major things which are always criticized, and of course unions are very strong in these two fields also, these two professions. So what do you think, what he has not done correctly or what could be done better?
Well, thank you, Tarek, for having me this evening, and it's a pleasure to join you again. This is my second time joining High Park, and the Premier and the Ford Conservatives, when they were elected, people of Ontario were hoping that they wanted real change. What we got was from bad to worse. As you could see, their track record, they have been really, as soon as they arrived, they started to simply remove the little gains we had with minimum wage. You see, the Liberals, it took about 15 years to
Mhm.
raise a bit of the minimum wage and to get 3 days of sick days. What did they
Yes.
do when they arrived, the Ford Conservatives? They just eliminated altogether.
Hmm.
And that's one thing. Right away in the city of Toronto, in many regions in Ontario, they also removed municipal representations. As you know, in
Okay.
city of Toronto, we're
Hmm.
supposed to be having close to 47 councillors to represent
Yes.
close to 3 million people, to make
Hmm.
day to day an important responsibility of looking after the people's work. What
Hmm.
do? They simply downsized, and they made it into 15 ridings
Oh
equal to
wow.
provincial to provincial and federal ridings. These are
Federal.
their records when it comes to democracy, when it comes to looking after workers for basic things like, a minimum wage, basic days. That was their record, and they continue to do. They also cut, as you know, the legal access to justice. For example, if
Mhm.
you are a poor tenant, someone who need a lawyer, uh, a lot of people were relying on legal aid, and legal aid fundings, they also cut 30%,
Mhm.
and thereby denying people to have access to justice. When I visited Tariq in the north on the Tanda Bay with my
Mhm.
colleague Solma Makwa and Kevin Yard and many
Mhm.
members of our caucus, we visited one of the jails there, and we saw many folks there who were
Mhm.
simply waiting a day, their day in court, simply because they have been accused of a crime, but they have not been convicted of a crime, because that's a difference. You can simply arrest it, and then if you are poor, you cannot get a bail, and you stay there until you are proven guilty or not guilty. And the
Oh,
condition,
okay.
yeah, and the conditions they're living there, and many of them don't even have access to lawyers because they can't afford it. And this is
Mhm.
also another thing they did. They simply um, 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 just cut 30% of legal aid. Furthermore, we could see also in the pandemic, we saw their priorities. This government's priority was simply to look after big corporations and thereby simply abandoning small businesses. And in my own community of York South Weston, many small businesses are run, women and visible minorities, and those businesses that run a woman, particularly in Perfect Blend, which is also next to my office, and With, which is also both are women-run restaurants. They are gone, and many others. So
Yeah,
we
that
have.
was a big challenge, like where you have to physical presence there. So online business was okay, but where you have to need the traffic there, physical presence there. That was suffered a lot. True.
Indeed, but also the policy of this government looked at, as you know, looking after their friends and their buddies and looking after the big corporations rather than looking after everybody. We have seen
Mhm.
also issues of housing. We see the crisis in my own community, Building 33 King, which was a building that people, hardworking, decent, hardworking people live there. What do? They also continued the work of the liberals by continuing above guideline increase, rent increases, which the landlord can simply increase every year the rent to the tenant and landlord. And this particularly, they have requested again 2018, 2019, and 2021. And when a vacancy, when a unit is empty, what they were doing also is also doubling or increasing more than it used to be before. So, and they don't. They also lifted a rent control when it comes to new buildings. So new buildings can charge as much as they want. And we had a case example in my own community here in
Mhm.
22 John Street, where they have sold the idea that this is going to be a place where it's affordable. We're going to attract young people, and also it's close to the Up Express, where people could go downtown to 12 minutes and so on. But no one could afford it because every
Yeah, true.
month the rent was increased, and the government under Ford conservatives allowed that to happen. We have been asking this, and we've been fighting for this. Each time they voted down. Their record is worse than the liberals, and the
Mhm.
liberals also was there for 15 years. So what
Yes.
we need, Tariq, a government that puts people first, and a government that gives people opportunity. From bad to worse, we can do better. And we need a government, and we are ready. An NDP government headed by Andrew Horvath is ready, and she's strong, and she gets it. And also, we have also a strong team that is also ready to take their positions on the cabinet and also governing this province. We are, as you said, a government in waiting, and we are ready to govern.
Yes. So Faisal, one of the issue people are upset with the education policy. First of all, there are two things. One is, of course, how they handled in pandemic, and like sometimes opening the school, closing the school, class size, testing, not testing. These are these are the administrative things they have to take decision. The other thing is that OEQE, I don't know what's the exact name. So they started that standardized testing again. So and that was already there for the long time. It was not serving the purpose, and it was scrapped by the Ford government. Why they're bringing that? So what is your opinion on that one, the NDP opinion on that?
Well, I mean, my opinion is they are destroying our education. They are trying to privatize our education. They are not
Mhm,
willing to work with parents and teachers, and we've been calling for a comprehensive to support teachers, to support schools, hire more teachers, hire more education workers, invest more resources, build and repair those schools, and also fix those schools that don't have ventilations. With
mhm.
EQ, a lot of experts have said it's not working. So
Yeah.
if something is not working, and my opinion is we have to move on and we have to put resources needed to support those teachers and education workers and parents and students and give our students a head start and provide more resources, schools and school boards that need more resources to provide them better education to our children. What they are doing, as you can see, their policies of online, by the way, doesn't work. And I see because a lot of people with resources and with money, yes, it might work for them, but there are many folks who are struggling, and I think that is also a concern we all must have, because we want our education, and we want our education to be a public, not private, and not shutting down our public schools. And that's why we need an NDP government that puts more resources in education and also works with teachers and parents, education workers, and also students, because the students, many of them, are also leaders, you know, and
Mhm,
because why we created the NDP, the MPP Youth Council, where young people from high schools can join us as the Youth Council to participate and to contribute and learn about provincial governance and provincial structures, so that they're ready. And there are many leaders already. So we need to work also with these young people from high schools, from all schools, and also to work with teachers, particularly, and education workers, and also parents to make our schools better. They know what's best for them, and a government should be there to put resources necessary. Of course, we need standards, yes, but we need also to not simply put the agenda of privatization, that which is government, is
mhm.
actually that's the real agenda.
So what about there is a lot of criticize is happening on the health facilities. There is a long time queues, hallway medicines, especially particularly in Brampton, is the worst case. Like it's the worst example you can give in entire Ontario. Other than that, of course, there is issues for the surgeries are delayed. Of course, it was the impact of the COVID also, but still people are lacking. Our infrastructure is not as good as many other countries have. Like even if we compare to the other developing countries, the like which are recently developed, Dubai infrastructure is best. China, they had a high speed trains and all that thing, and we are still struggling with the old TTC here, and and same is going for the health. So what is the NDP take on that, about this infrastructure, road infrastructure, and on the health infrastructure?
Absolutely, this is very important question, and this is the neglect. As you see, you talked about Brampton. Brampton needs a hospital, not one but more hospitals, because the population have increased, and this is
Yes.
also the failure of this government and also the previous government. In my own community, we used to have at least two hospitals. One has been shut down, and another one has been emerged, and basically a community close by of 300,000 or more relying, neighboring ridings as well relies
Mhm.
those hospital called Humber River Hospital, and previous hospital is gone. Now they're building condos and other houses. So that was the legacy of Kathleen Wynne and Hallway Medicine, and also Dr. McGinty, and also now this government plus 15 years plus 4 years. We cannot take another 4 years of this government. What we need to do is to replacement with an NDP government that actually puts more resources on our healthcare, builds more hospitals, and also hire more nurses, and also treats our nurses, our frontline workers, the respect they deserve. This government, when they talk about healthcare, they say, and also essential workers, they're frontline workers and
Mhm.
champions. But when it comes to really respect them, what do? They introduce bills like Bill 124, capping 1% their wages. This is not the way to support and work with and collaborate with healthcare workers and also the resources we need. We don't want what the agenda is also privatization of our healthcare. And this work has been very important to our not only Ontario but Canada, and they have been these privatizations have continued from the Liberals under Kathleen Wynne and Dalton McGuinty, and also Ford Conservatives here. So I agree with you. We need to put more resources our healthcare, and also we have to be also smarter. By working with the experts, making sure we build where we needed hospitals, and also we put resources where those resources are needed, hiring more nurses, and also putting also a locally focused doctors, and having more healthcare workers, because that's where we are lacking at the moment.
Mr. Faisal, there is another controversy. I would not say it's a controversy, but it's a debate. Like a lot of debate is going on, and honestly, if I look from my point of view, so I believe that NDP is unable to convince the people. The people are not buying in the NDP cannot even. I will say rephrase like this, that NDP could not bring up the counter narrative or the successfully the highway 413. So people generally think, oh, having a new highway is a good thing. It will reduce the congestion. It will make the new opportunities for the development. So why NDP is opposing, and what alternate solutions IDP has for that one?
Well, I think the issue here is that when you are going to build anything, you have to first and foremost consult with the communities. You can't just work like a dictatorship where you will simply not include the issues of the environment, the
Hmm.
green belt. The environment is very important, you know, where we get, drinking water, and also the habitat and so forth. And this highway is just is simply helping the bodies of this government, and
Hmm.
directly benefiting them rather than the greater good. And the greater good means that the community's inputs is also incorporated and consulted. My colleague from Oshawa, Jennifer French, has been fighting this, and has been very, talking about this at the legislature, and has put an excellent ideas. To this is not it's not what the community there needs, but they are simply trying to help certain developers in that area to bring
Hmm.
and build more developments and so forth. And that's not a policy you look into. Who is going to There's no population to travel from that direction. Yes, we need highways. Yes, we need infrastructures, but it has to be included. What makes sense, where it's necessary, not simply destroying our habitat and our green belt. And that's where I think it is also we have to consider factors when we are building highways and those infrastructures, so that we include the community. The community wants it, and also we also look after the environment, not
So you are
today, but
saying that
also
it should be broadly consultation should be done, like
it
in
should be done.
principle,
And also
but
and
it should
visibility,
be.
yeah, absolutely. And visibility also, not helping the government's friends. That's a conflict of interest, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it should there should be no cronism. There should be no
Exactly.
nepotism. There's no friendship should be there, of course.
Exactly. It should be
Okay, a lot
transparent.
of people are yeah, Mr. Faisal, a lot of people are watching us online also, and they are asking a question. So I got one question you can see on your screen also. Question, please. It's from Julia Cole. Please, where will be action on climate change, environmental concerns, and repairing people's relationship with nature fall within the NDP's agenda going into the this elections and going forward? So we will move to the. Of course, I will have to ask one question to you regarding your own performance. Being a member of parliament, like have you introduced any bill, personally private bill, or any what you have done for the community, and why people should elect you? And then we will move it to forward to the next plan for the NDPs, and you can answer this question after that. My question.
Now you asked me two questions. One question was the one of the audience you said, or which one is first? Because you
No,
asked me.
first you can ask. You can answer the question about your performance as a
Okay, yes,
MPP for
yeah,
your community and in the legislator. So what you have done in the
fantastic.
legislation
Yes.
and then we can move forward to the NDP agenda for the next elections.
Well, thank you very much. And I think I was elected June 7, 2018, the general election. And as soon as I've been elected, I've been advocating and giving my community a strong voice. And we have, as you know, this community has been neglected the last 15 years. We have become an afterthought. You see,
Mhm.
in housing issues, I put a bill calling housing is human right, a
Okay.
framework to deal with housing inequities and disparities that exist in this province. What does this government do? They voted down. They didn't even
Oh,
give
okay.
an
Yeah, that's why
opportunity.
I was asking the question. So they have a majority. So they bulldozed that, or it was passed.
That's what they're trying to do. They voted down, And I'm also the youth engagement. Earlier was appointed my leader, Andrea Horvat, a youth engagement a critic, and then a youth opportunities critic. And I also put a motion there, work integrated learning. Work integrated learning is an important component because I have had a wide consultation with young people across the province, and we
Mhm.
talked about what they need. They needed internships, they needed co-ops, they needed placements, and there are many positions, many parts of schools that are field of studies that don't give young people the experience necessary to
Mhm.
gain while they're in universities and colleges. So I put that motion, work integrated learning, and to provide a couple of things. First, to provide young people paid positions for internships, placements, and co-ops, and
Mhm.
um, and these are every field of study. And also, it goes further and asks also, because young people when they graduate universities, it takes them 10 years, 15 years, 5 years to land a job in their field of study. But by
Mhm.
gaining the experiences necessary early on for internships and co-ops, and finding out and knowing which company, the middle managers, the managers, then they will already have built experience and also references to learn employment as they graduate, because work and school go hand in hand. It's
Yeah.
inseparable. They work together, and that's what I have been advocating to and also the entire NDP to provide our young people that opportunities and also paid positions. Also expanded into recent graduates as well, because recent graduates, a lot of them do not are not eligible. Many programs that those in school are eligible, to also include them into the work integrated learning. Also to expand also young people who are unemployed and
Mhm.
young people who are also wandering on the streets, to bring them into skill trades. So we can provide them paid internships and co-ops to get hands-on. And many of them, we know that to be even a carpenter, you need to have some knowledge of physics and math, so that also upgrade them from their secondary education, and also
True.
help them transition that, and also a placements. Also, there's a lot of young people also, as you know, are in prisons and detention centers that are not getting any education whatsoever. Also
Mhm.
to provide them those educations there and training necessary to integrate them, because justice system is not only punishment but also rehabilitation, and it's missing
True.
that. So that's also one aspect of actually comprehensive strategy of working with young people, gaining the experience, and providing the opportunities. That was work integrated. That bill, that motion passed at the legislature, and but the government hasn't put the resources necessary. To this
Mhm.
day, one single student has not been hired for that position. I've also tabled a bill on protection of consumer watchdog.
Okay. Consumer
Consumers in
protection.
Ontario are taken advantage of. Many of
Mhm.
them are taken advantage of, and and to also have Ontario consumer watchdog looking after consumers. And now what the government does, previous Liberals and the Conservatives, is to give you a 1-800 number, and nothing happens. If you are taking advantage and you're a consumer in Ontario, there is no protection for you. And this bill would have done that. It had teeth and also a strong legislation. What does this government do? They voted down that as well. And I also
Yeah,
put
that's the bad part of the majority government always.
exactly. So the
Yeah.
other also bills I've also put was the auto insurance. I put also
Mhm.
motion on auto insurance, and my other colleagues of mine also have also put bills. And auto insurance is huge issues in many communities in the
Yes,
GTA, and it's a discriminatory practices that targets people because of their postal code and other factors which has nothing to do with auto insurance. Auto insurance should be based only the driving your driving record on the car you drive, nothing else.
that's it.
So, but
True.
it is not because no one is protecting consumers and communities like mine for auto insurance. We also know that also on the pandemic, during the pandemic, many cars were just parked on the driveways and
Yes,
parking lots.
majority
Yet,
were parked on the driveway. True.
yes, and
So, but
because
nobody
of
got the
that,
relief for that one.
exactly, and we have been advocating for relief for years. The Liberals have done nothing about that. And the Conservatives, now we see their agenda. They have done nothing. And then now they want to also include credit cards, credit history with your auto insurance, which has nothing to do with your driving records. So these also they have voted down again. And we have been not only my motion, but also many bills that my colleagues from Brampton and GTA Toronto on the NDP caucus have put together, and they have voted down. And we're going to put again before the House is adjourned another
Mhm.
motion to actually put them
Uh,
into the
so,
record.
Mr. Faisal,
I,
right now, of course, we already completed 4 years, and we're going for the elections. So it's a good chance to for the people to review the performance of the government, what they have done for them, and of course the performance of the opposition, and what their agenda is. So, have NDP launched their new platform, or
well,
still
not
working
not
on that?
not yet, but not yet. But I have also done other bills, like also bills like Black Mental Health Day,
Mhm.
to also recognize the stigma with mental health. Also, I put our London Family Act bill recently
Mhm.
in the
That was
legislature.
you,
That's right.
London
Me and
Family.
also with collaboration with the
Of course.
community and also with
Mhm.
NCCM and with my
Mhm.
leader and also my colleagues from London,
Okay.
Fanshawe, London West, and London
Mhm.
North Centre. So this is also an important bill, which it's important that the community, in collaboration with the community, with NCCM and others, have said this is needed to protect the community and to make sure that Islamophobia is stamped out, and all kinds of systemic barriers and hate.
So we are moving forward to the next 4 years. What's the plan NDP have for to moving from we like the NDP gave a slogan last, we deserve better, but we went from like worst. So instead of going getting better, so of course we have to move from worst to the better one. So
Exactly.
what do you think? Yeah. So what are the main things which you're gonna implement as an NDP government member? Of course, it will be a full party decision, not only yours. But what are the priorities for NDP?
Well, I mean, it's very clear. First and foremost, we have to bring respect to the premier's office. We need to elect Andrew Horvath, our next premier, and also, of course, we will bring our platform ASP soon because the election will be in 6 weeks from now or five
Yeah.
weeks from now, and there are also some aspect of our platforms that we have already released. Our climate, the new democratic deal,
Yes, climate change is
which
a main issue.
so which exactly which focuses hope, justice, and climate is also out. Our housing plan is also out, and also our home care and long-term care is already out, and others will be coming soon. And we will also have a comprehensive, solution focused and also a doable platforms. But first and foremost, what we are in this election is going to be is a leadership. We need a leader like Andrew
Mhm.
Horvath to be the premier of this province so that we can actually respect the people of this province and also reassure the people of Ontario that we come together economic recovery and that we work together to make sure we have a premier that listens to you and addresses the
Mhm.
important issues. Important issues we've already talked about are, affordability issues, a living cost, housing, childcare. We talked about also long-term care and home care, and
Yeah.
these issues are the issues that both the Liberals and the Conservatives have neglected. And the agenda of privatization is very clear, especially when it comes to on long-term care and home care. We know that the Premier Harris, Ebony Eves, and Kathleen Wynne, and Dalton McGuinty, and now Ford have been privatizing long-term care and home care. And we have also seen what the military have revealed in these long-term care. It was horrible conditions, and it is because they are putting first and foremost dividends and profit maximization ahead of seniors. And Tariq, there is no money to make money on the backs of our seniors.
Faisal, another always comments come from community, of course, like when I move into community and especially in GT and everywhere, and even for when we go for the people go for the door knocking or for the campaign for NDP. And when we let people tell that the candidate tell them that we will do gonna do with this funding and all that thing. So people generally ask one question: where these fund will come from? So, what is the agenda for financial discipline for that? How you're going to make it? These funds are available,
Well,
and
I mean
where
that.
these additional sources will come from.
Well, this is why you need a government that is responsible, accountable, and transparent. And that's exactly what you need a leadership of headed, a government headed. Andy Horvath will do that exactly. And as you know, a government has revenue and also it has priorities. And
Mhm.
exactly that's what we need to make sure that the priorities of the people of Ontario is delivered into plan and action. And that's exactly what NDP government will do, headed by Andy Horvath, by also making sure that we are accountable, we are transparent, and we're listening to the people. And this is
Mhm.
not the case. The record of the previous government from the Liberals and the Conservatives was not the case. They were not consulting people. They were not um, um, trying to also do what is important rather than they looking the interests of their their buddies and friends. And you can't run government nepotism and also looking after your own friends rather than looking everybody. And that's what we need to restore the confidence of the people of Ontario and to put an NDP government that is headed Andy Horvath, a strong leader, a compassionate leader who cares the province of Ontario, and together we can work together to deliver those results.
Mr. Faisal, one of the thing people are suffering from right last 3 4 years, especially, and one is the affordable housing. That's the other issue. But overall, prices of housings are going skyrocketing, like 30% in average every year, and it is nobody is able to afford, especially a young generation. It cannot afford. So, and the mainly when we talk to the real estate agents and the ORIA, they always come up that it's a demand and supply. Simple, it's a market rule. So, what do you think that how NDP will do differently, and how they will make sure that, are they going to give a direct subsidy to the consumer, or make it as a more accessible to doing some reducing some HST on these the the building materials, or giving some facilities to the builders, so that we can increase quickly the supply of the housing, so that if we talk about the market mechanism, still we can reduce the prices and lower down the prices. What is the strategy for lowering the housing cost for NDP?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, the housing is really crisis, and it's affordability issue. And this crisis began in the 1993. Federal
Yes.
government under John Critchay and Martin government, they said they have nothing to do with housing. This is their record. This is the fact. And then they downloaded into provincial governments. And here in
Mhm.
Ontario at that time, the Premier Mike Harris was the Premier. And what does he do? He continued to also download into municipalities, like the city of Toronto, which is having over hundred thousands of waiting for affordable housing. And I know His
Mhm.
Worship John Tory and the city councillors are doing their best, but
Mhm.
it's not the capacity, because the provincial government have downloaded into municipalities responsibility for housing. Also, what does the Dalton McGuinty, when they were elected 2003, and later Kathleen Wynne, what do? They continue that downloading it, responsibility from the provincial government, and it came from the federal government also downloading it into a provincial, and then they download it to municipalities, and this government is also doing the same thing. So this crisis has begun for the last 30 years and continued to now. So what we need now to fix it, and to fix it means we need a plan. And the NDP
Mhm.
has already released our housing plan, which is also has so many options to deal with.
Mhm.
For example, young people who live, say, in your community, they cannot dream their own home. That
Yeah,
dream is
true.
gone. A community in which they live. So what we are trying to do is also to give people more options, so that people who are making over 200,000 and less, then we will be they will be able to have access to equity loans of
Mhm.
10% down payments, so that they will be able to immediately have that, and then have a place of their own. That's one component. And the other is also to also make sure that we also bring rent control, and also deal with the above um, um, guideline
So
rent
how we can increase the supply? Actually, how we can incentivize
uh,
either the builders, or the if how we can, or maybe like building supplies and the material cost of construction. How we can reduce the cost of construction?
this is what we're trying, because we need, first and foremost, you also need also, I was trying to also explain, because it's a comprehensive housing
Yes.
plan we've released it. I just talked to some portions of it, but also you need to go after the flippers and speculators, you know
Yes.
who are also speculating it. And of course, yes, supply is another issue. You need also to build a mix of rental and also affordable housing. And also you need to make sure that also we work with communities, and also we build also more co-ops, and so that also increase those availability, and also go after those speculators and flippers, and those also folks who are investing heavily, and not even renting just empty places that are no one is living in them, hundreds and hundreds of units and places in city just are
Mhm.
waiting, and empty apartments. We need those also to deal with them, and make sure that they're available people to live in them, because housing is human right, and we
Yes.
need to work in that, and make sure that we have also not one solution but multiple solutions. But our plan addresses all those aspects of it.
Thank you, Mr. Faisal Hassan, and best of luck for your next elections. And hopefully, we will see you in again in Parliament, and as a Treasury member, not the opposition member. So, thank you very much for joining me today and providing insight about the other side of the story. I would always say the other side of the story. Of course, the government has their own story. So we'll end our program now from here. And of course, there's a lot of questions are still there to be answered, but we can have another program or some other time we will discuss about that, like Islamophobia and all that things are
Yes, well,
still there.
thank you. Absolutely, thank you very much, and that's also very important. Our London Family Act, this bill is very important, and this is not a partisan; it's a moral bill. We need to pass it now, and we need to also pressure the government to make sure this bill is passed as soon as possible. And the audience who are watching it, please write to the government and pass this. Let them know that we need to pass it now before the
Mm.
legislation rises.
Thank you very much, Faisal, for your time, and best of luck again. So for your next election. So see you soon. Thank you,
Thank you, Tarek, for having me.
everyone. Yeah. Everyone, thank you very much for joining my program. And if please subscribe to my channel. And if you like this program, and please send me comments also, and share with your friends also. Thank you very much.